Mary, thank you for joining us. Can you give us a little snippet of what you do in your business and units and agents and team and how you got there in snippet? So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And guys, can y'all remind me? I can't remember the last time that we were together. I've got some slides that show some of this. Have y'all already seen this, or do you want me to pull those up? Would that be helpful, or can you even see them from where you are?
We can see the slides if you want to pull them up, or we can just talk as well. But we have it on TV, so we can see the slides.
Okay. Well, great. Then you know what? What I might do is let me just share my screen. How would that be? And that way I can kind of talk you guys through it.
That's it.
Great. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let me open it with, let me see here. Let me open it with a Google Doc. So guys, basically, I sell real estate in a small town on the coast of North Carolina. And we've seen a whole lot of growth over the last several years. Our last 2 years, 2021 and 2022, were basically flat in terms of GCI. We went backwards about 20% in terms of units, which I think is a pretty common tale. But we've sold just over 200 million in real estate for about 6 million in GCI. And I have, this is not working, but I can just show you guys this slide right here. So you can kind of see the trajectory of our growth from 2016 when we opened, and then we don't have 22 on here yet. But basically, going from 500 to 6 million in GCI over that time. So as far as the makeup of our company is concerned, the makeup of our company is we're very admin heavy. So as far as agents are concerned, we've got 4 buyer's agents. We have 3 listing agents. I work directly with a couple of developers, and then the rest of our team is admin, and we have 22 team members total. So, all in all, if we've got 8 that are agents, including me, then we've got 14 admin. Yeah. So, our goal is definitely for our agents to do a lot of production, and then they've got a lot of support.
So can you tell us a little bit about that structure, how you set it up with your teams? I know they have admins on their own, so.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So on the listing side, the way that we're structured is that every listing agent has a dedicated coordinator. So, that coordinator is somebody who basically is their partner in the business. That is, the goal is that once the agent goes out and secures the listing, that then they tag in, we use Trello. So they tag in their coordinator and the other relevant folks on the team. And then they're kind of off to the races. So everything's kind of handled for them from there. They step back in to negotiate due diligence, to negotiate the contract, and, kind of for closing. But that's the way that should work. And then on the buy side, we do have a showing agent, which is working really well for us. That was something I was nervous about, but it's really working great. And we, generally speaking, have the same setup. Although on the buy side, the buyer coordinators are compensated more on a split. So they get a small percentage of their buyer's agents' deals because they are out in the field more. They are copied on all sorts of text messages. They work a lot more on the weekends, that sort of thing.
And can we talk about how you grew this through your lead generation, what you did to get these amount of leads and points going forward over that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we have 4 pillars of kind of what we do through lead generation. And so, it's all about consistency, basically. But the 4 things that we do for our lead generation, we really don't expect a whole lot from our agents in terms of one-on-one, cold calls, that sort of thing. I know there are teams where they have dedicated lead gen time every morning for 3 hours and that sort of thing. That's not really what we do. I don't know what Gary would say about that, but that's not what we do. So what we do is we have a marketing team that is two women, our marketing director, Meg, and then Andy works directly with Meg, and they do a lot. And so it's really lead nurture and lead follow-up is what our agents are expected to do. So the 4 pillars of our communication are we use social media, of course. We do a weekly email newsletter. We have a magazine that we do, and then we do video. So, and our video is very, I don't know, if you guys follow anybody who's a big like YouTube, like Ken Pozak. I mean, there are some people who are very YouTube savvy. That is not us. I'm talking like, relatively basic video, but we're consistent about it. So I think that makes a big difference. So if y'all want me to, I can walk you through each one of those buckets. Y'all tell me, I know this is supposed to be a mastermind. I'm happy to.
Yeah, please walk us through those buckets.
Okay, great. So basically the buckets, okay, so we've got those 4 pillars, right, that we just went through, but then we've got buckets, which are, what is the content we're providing to them, right? What's the messaging that we're talking to them about? And so what we think about is, what does our ideal client want to see? So Sacramento, I know you guys are in a much bigger area than I am. You'd likely want to focus your content on whoever your ideal client might be, right? Or whatever it is that's happening in your specific neighborhood or submarket. But for us, because our area is pretty small, we are on the coast, so we have a core group of folks who live here full time, and then we have second homeowners. So we want to communicate to both of them about kind of what's happening in our area. There's a lot of kind of coastal content that comes with that, kind of some specific area stuff. But my point is, your buckets might not be my buckets, is what I'm saying. So our buckets are our listings, a market update. So we want to be their economist of choice. What's happening in our community, and then what's happening within our team. So think about that. So if you're thinking about listings, what are some things that you would want to post under listings? Obviously pretty pictures of new listings, right? But it would also be, just sold, video, walkthrough videos, recent closings, things that have gone under contract, success stories. All of those things would fall into the listing bucket. Am I making sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the second bucket that we talked about is market update. So again, that's the economist of choice. So that's where I might hop on and film a video about days on market and how that's changing, or looking at inventory, or average sale price. It's really kind of looking at different statistics. And then I think the key to that is, what does this mean for you when you're doing that market update bucket? Then the community bucket, this one, y'all, this is just a field day. So this is where you might really want to tailor it to your ideal client, right? To your demographic, whatever that might be. And so for us, for our community, we do business spotlights. We talk about what's coming up with events in our area. We do favorites lists, our favorite products we bought locally recently, our favorite local heroes, our favorite charities. It can be anything like that. And then finally is team. But if you don't have a team, I think this can be individual. How many of you guys have teams?
1, 2, 3, 4 of us. No, 5 of us, and then 5 of us are individuals.
Okay, great. So I think that if you're not part of a team, then I think you would just make this individual stuff kind of about you. And the point of this, I think, is to kind of be aspirational. So I think what you want to do is you want to set yourself up as somebody that a client would want to get to know, that they'd want to work with. This is where you get to show a little bit of your personality, right? You create something that they want to be a part of. So, you can do, a great dinner that you had out. You can do some finds of the week, some local tips, or, birthdays, anniversaries, events that you attend, classes that you've gone to, all that kind of stuff, a big afternoon of showings, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's where you kind of let a little bit of your own personality shine through. So, what you want to do, guys, is you want to take the buckets that you come up with, which for us are those 4 buckets, and then you want to share them across whatever pillars you choose for communication. So again, we know that we're going to focus on social media, our weekly emails, our magazine, and video. And so when we're going to figure out what are we going to say in each one of those 4 modes of communication, we circle back to our buckets. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you talk a little about social media and often posting?
Yeah. So I would say we're posting probably 4 or 5 times a week. And again, we will pull from each one of those buckets to kind of show. See if I can. Here is an example. You go. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
So each one of those 4 buckets that we just talked about, there's an example of a listing post. You can see right there, it's a carousel. You always want to use a carousel of photos when you're doing photos and not videos, because when the user is scrolling through, the post will continue to show up in their feed until they've looked at every photo, right? So you see how there are multiple photos in this post. You can see the blue dots. So you want to post multiple photos. Okay. So, and I'm a very high D, so I really like bullet points. So we do these bullet points right here. You can see those. So this would be an example of a listing post. A market update. I've been doing this thing where I hop in my car and just film a minute, 2 minutes. And I always say like, hey guys, I'm out running around. I've just pulled my car over, because people freak out when they think I'm driving and filming a video, which who would do that? But you just say, here's what's happening in our market. I filmed one yesterday, that said the books are closed. The national market is up 8% year over year. Carteret County's up 17%. And we started the year out really strong. Showings are up 10% if you look at the first week of January versus the first week of December. Very positive trajectory. We're thrilled, high five. So that's, it's really that simple, but that's the market update video. And then you see here's a community post where we are talking about that we're hosting a breakfast for the Boys and Girls Club. These were the giveaways that were associated with that. So just something that was coming up in our community. And then team, this was a post that we did that was our team retreat that we rented a beach house, and this was us. So kind of, again, aspirational. I mean, we're fun. We enjoy each other. You think about what is the image that you want to portray to your ideal client. What questions do y'all have?
I know we talked in the past that you had said that you take your newsletter and you sort of adopt new neighborhoods. You go in tax record and say, I want to take this neighborhood over. Can you talk a little bit about how you adopt neighborhoods and as you grow? So.
John, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I know you heard the newsletter, but then you said, what do I do about?
I know last time we talked, you mentioned that you take newsletters and your marketing and you kind of adopt new neighborhoods and you sort of take them over. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you do that? So.
Yeah, I sure can. So basically, with our magazine, is that?
Yeah.
Yep. So basically with our magazine, and y'all, we actually have continued to grow. We send a magazine out 4 times a year. Our magazine is about 20 to 24 pages. Actually, here's our Christmas magazine right here. So you can see our marketing director, she just shoots the cover. This is on my back porch. I mean, it's not, anything crazy. And then it's just, that we have there's always a letter from me on the inside. We open with kind of a market analysis. And then as you go through, this was our gift guide. We did a gift guide. But then we partner with local businesses. Like here's a spread that we did on a new company called Grow Social that hosts events for you. They basically design events. And so they paid us $1,000 to do this in our magazine. And when I say us, they actually pay our print house directly, which is a huge hack, because that way you're not running money through your books. They're just helping to defray the cost of printing. And it's such an easy sell. Like if you're going to try and start to do print materials and you're going to have a good circulation for that, you go to people and you say, at this point we print 15,000, we mail 15,000 of these. So where can they get in 15,000 doors for $1,000 with a 2-page spread? I mean, you can't. So it's really easy to get sponsors for this if you decide to start doing it. Basically, we had, of course, our core database of past clients and that kind of thing. But every time we send it out, we aim to grow the number of homes that we send it to. And so what that looks like is having a VA or having an assistant or whoever that may be go in and we use tax records. And they go in, and we say, okay, we're going to add this whole neighborhood today to our database. And you go in and you just pull the owner of record, their mailing address, whether they're full-time or actually live somewhere else, right? You want to make sure that you pull their full-time address if they're a second homeowner, and just add them to the database.
Okay, and then you find how quickly do you see the results come? If you adopt a new neighborhood and you mail them the newsletter, how long do you feel you have good success in that neighborhood?
Gosh, John, you know what, that varies wildly because it depends on, if you're looking at a neighborhood that you want to own, we try to target neighborhoods that have at least 20 to 30% turnover, which can be really hard to find. Right. So, I think that, how quickly you're going to see results from that neighborhood, it really depends. With the magazine, one of the things that I think everybody's got to get really comfortable with as far as marketing is concerned is, the magazine is really going to be a top of mind. It's a mind share tool. Absolutely. Every time we send a magazine out, we get calls from people that say, hey, I got your magazine. I'm interested in listing my house. I'm interested in buying. But a lot of that, is not going to be an instantaneous, result. Yeah, because you're hitting tons of people at one time. So the magazine is a great thing. As you guys know, backing up, social media is essentially free, right? And magazine's very expensive. It costs us about $14,000 to send the magazine out to 15,000 homes. That's before we get the sponsors. So if we get 7 $1,000 sponsors,
right,
then it costs us $7,000 to hit 15,000 homes. Right. And we do also print an additional 1,000 magazines and we deliver them to local businesses. So I went to get my haircut this week and I walked in and there's a stack of our magazines at the haircut place, or, I'll go into a boutique and there'll be a stack of our magazines, or the gym, when I walk in places, it's so fun because I'm like, oh, well, there we are. Somebody dropped those off. So, so we do that as well, not to mention the actual mailing. But I think, the magazine can be really daunting. Because it started out as a newsletter, like seriously, like some folded computer paper that we mailed out like 500 of. And then it's grown from there, but it can be daunting and it can be expensive and it's awesome. And I'm happy to delve deeper into that. What I do want to back up and really point out to everybody, is, that you've also got, aside from social media, sending those weekly emails, building out your database of email addresses and sending those weekly emails, it's free. Once you create the content, it costs you the same amount to send it to one person as it does to send it to 20,000 people, right? So how many of you guys send out emails to your database consistently? Great. How often do y'all do that?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Monthly. We do it monthly.
Monthly.
Unless we have
Yeah, unless we have a special event.
Okay. And what kind of content do y'all put in your emails?
trash.
Market stats mostly. Yeah.
Market stats.
Yeah, market stats.
I follow you on social media, so I see what value you provide. So I'm working on my social media to put the content out with market trends and updates, what's new listings, pendings, all that. But our emails can be redirected.
Yeah. Do you track your open rates and your click rates?
Yes.
No, we don't.
We can start.
That's a big deal. I would really recommend that you start tracking. And MailChimp, I mean, any of those, BombBomb, I'm sure does. I mean, any of those services, you're able to track it. And one of the things that we found is it's really interesting. when you start tracking, you can start to look at which subject lines draw the most people, and you can start to look at what order you should put your content buckets, right? So we played around with that, where we would put community stuff above real estate. We would put stats above community stuff. We would play with it all. And what we found is that for us, and we have over 20,000 people that get our emails, and we send them every week. We send them every Thursday at 6 p.m. And what we found is that the most traction that we get, the most opens that we get, are always if we have some baller new listing, because people are really curious about that. So I thought that was fascinating, because I thought people would want the community stuff, because what percentage of those 20,000 people are currently transacting business, right? But I think a lot of them are stakeholders in our community. They own property here. So they want to know what's coming on the market, what's it listed for, what's happening, not to mention that there's that aspirational piece of wanting to see like a really cool piece of property, right? So I would say that to you.
Okay.
I think that's a big deal. What you want to do, of course, is to recycle. So recycle any content that you put. So when we went through those buckets on our social media, anything you've shared on social media that week, you put it right in your email. I think people are like, oh my God, well, they've already seen it. No, they have not. There is the algorithm in social media. I mean, a lot of people see your stuff as you think they do, right? And then they've already forgotten about it anyway. So you put it, so that video that you filmed, that goes in your email, right? Anything that's happening, your community news, your market stats, you use those same 4 buckets, whatever you decide your buckets are. If you want more than 4, have more than 4, but get really clear about what your buckets are. Because I think the thing is, if you're talking about, that you haven't yet consistently started sending your emails, it's because you don't know what to say, right? You don't know what to put in there. And it's exhausting. It becomes far less exhausting. And you do know what to say when you define what your buckets are. Because you just think, what's the one thing that fits in this bucket, right? I can't tell you how much easier it makes things. But that's what I would say to you. And I'm not trying to downplay the magazine, because the magazine's amazing. It's just that the magazine is, it's an endeavor. I mean, it's expensive, it's hard, and it's incredible. And if you're ready to do that, I'm happy to talk to you. But anybody can start sending consistent emails out to their database. And so I think that tracking how many opens you're getting, that's when it starts getting fun too, because then you get rewarded for the work that you've done. You can start to figure out, what are people responding to? Which sections are they clicking on? Right. And so I think you got to think about, again, going back to your ideal client, the folks that you deal with, what do they want to hear about? Is it just market stats? I don't think so. Right. I think they want to know what's happening. What are some upcoming events they might want to attend? Do you have a great recommendation for something you just ate at a new local restaurant? That sort of thing, I think, really goes a long way.
It's like tracking your numbers on Reels. Tracking this. It's kind of fun.
Anyone have any questions?
What social media channels do you do? Facebook, Instagram? Is there anything besides those 2 that you do?
We really don't. I know we should probably be on the TikTok, but we are not. So it's just social. I mean, it's just Instagram and Facebook. And so we do a lot of posting across those. And that's really it. Of course, it's different audience, it's different engagement. But so sometimes we'll tweak the posts a little bit for the two different platforms, but that's it for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your compensation model. Can you hear me from here? Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious about so you said you're a high D, which means you've probably got a really strong operations partner, or employee. How did you, once you created all the content, you created your systems, how did you scale? What was your first 3 steps and the compensation model for those?
Okay. Well, what I can tell you is that I've made probably every mistake that you could possibly make, like for real.
I'm on my way there.
So our growth for the first probably 4 years was so messy. It was astronomical. And it was extremely messy. I don't know if you saw those charts that I put up before, but I mean, the first few years, it was just, it was straight up. Which is awesome. But also you can imagine, it's funny. I was just saying the other day, like, I think I've been in fight mode for so long, my nervous system doesn't know how to just like calm the F down. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm so used to a fight on every corner that I'm like, what? So what I can tell you is, I can tell you what I did, but I'm not sure that's helpful. I think I can tell you what I would do, which obviously, I mean, when you're building a team, right, what you want to do is definitely make sure that you are following the model in terms of getting your admin team straight before you hire a buyer's agent. I mean, heavens to Betsy, you've got to make sure that you have a strong value proposition for your agents, right? The teams that have high turnover are not clear on what their value proposition is. So I think if you don't have a strong admin team, number one, you don't have a strong culture because they're the keepers of your culture. And number two, you really don't have anything to offer a buyer's agent, right? Or a listing agent for that matter. You've got leads, but I mean, you know, that's only going to get you so far. They're not going to stay for that. So I would say get 2 or 3 really strong administrative folks up and running first. I would say from a bottom line perspective, hire a showing partner. If I don't know how your business works. If I did it again, I was so thrilled to get rid of buyers, which I didn't know I was going to be. I had my fingernails sunk so deep in that, but by the time they pried my hands off of them, it was magical. And so I would say, getting rid of buyers, but I think having one awesome buyer's agent and a really great showing assistant is pretty awesome. One of the things I've learned is I've thrown a lot of labor. I've thrown a lot of human capital at problems, and it'll solve a problem, but it creates a new one, right? Because managing people is managing people. So we've gotten really lucky that we have really great people in our organization, but you can't hire 9 people in 1 year and keep them all because some of them are not in alignment with your organization. They just aren't. So what I would say is follow the model, get your admin team straight. I would say don't go out and hire a bunch of buyer's agents. Instead, try and leverage a showing agent model within your team, if possible. Compensation model for our buyer's agents, they're at 40% split. Our listing specialists are at 25% split.
Admin.
Oh, yeah, our admin, they're all across the board, as you can imagine, depending on what their role is. Some of them have incentive comp. The ones who are touching folders, we have a folder fee for our closing folks on both sides, where we ended up, we don't have one transaction specialist who does all closings. We have a closing team on the buy side and a closing team on the listing side. It was just, it was too much to try and have one person or running that through one department. So for example, on the listing side, that listing coordinator that I referenced early on, that's the partner for the listing agent, they handle all the closing stuff. On the buy side, each buyer's agent has a buyer coordinator who's in the field with them. We present them almost as partners. So like the photo of a buyer's agent will be the buyer's agent with their admin, because what we want is for the buyer's agent to have a day off, right? We don't want the client to feel like that they're getting sent to the lesser than. They need to see them both as they're both licensed, they're both extremely capable. So what we do is we actually call our coordinators buyer specialists, and our agents are called lead buyer specialists.
Can you share with us your organizational model so I can take a look at it later?
Yes.
I want to see that. I want to see what that looks like.
What does your showing assistants make? They make it from the buyer 40%?
No. The showing assistant, and I can get that for you. The showing assistant is on a base salary for every day that they work. They are paid like a retainer almost that the company pays. And then the buyer's agent compensates them for every showing. And then they get compensated for a deal that closes. And I can get those percentages for you. I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't know those percentages off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Base pay daily and the 25% from the buyer's agent?
They don't, it's not 25%. It's maybe, It's not 25%. Nope. So the base pay, the retainer fee comes from me, comes from the team, right? So I'm saying to the buyer's agents, again, it's about value bringing to our agents, right? I'm saying, hey guys, Blair's available to show for you today. I've already paid for her availability. So she's available, right? Then you go on and you sign up, and it's something like maybe that you pay her $25 a door. I can get you guys the numbers. I'm sorry. I don't know off the top of my head. $25 a door. And then if what she shows closes, then she gets, let's say, 5% of the buyer's agent's 25%. Excuse me, of the buyer's agent's 40%. The buyer's agents are at 40 and the listing agents are at 25. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So as the business owner, I know what I'm spending on her, right?
Yeah.
And then the buyer's agents are able to use that service. And we really encourage them to do that. And they're doing that more and more. And you know where they're also really using her, of course, is once something's under contract. You know, when you go back and they've got to measure and they want to spend forever in the house and they want to, you know, so that's a great use of someone else's time.
What percentage of your cost, just estimate, because I know you mentioned you don't have your numbers in front of you, but if you were to estimate the cost for like the outgoing cost for salaries and contractor fees for the team, what percentage of that would be of your expenses?
You know what? I can tell you, it's funny. I actually have a P&L meeting on Tuesday with Streamline Bookkeeping, who currently does our books. And I can tell you that we are right in line. Like we are right in line with the suggestions for that are in the MREA. And I want to say that that's something like 22%, maybe. Does that sound right to anybody? Like 22% is supposed to be salaries and and benefits. I think that's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Easy.
Three biggest sources of lead and cost per lead.
Okay, so what in the end you're doing all this, where do your leads mostly come from? What percentage breakdown? What are your three top ones?
So, I mean, the majority of our leads are repeat and referral. And, you know, we work really hard to keep it that way. And so, I mean, you know, I think the thing is, guys, it's just like with the emails, it's like what we were saying earlier. I mean, the point of the emails is, you know, certainly to capture somebody who happens to be looking at real estate at this exact moment or happens to want to sell, but it's to provide value to people who aren't transacting business, right? So that then when they get ready to, you're top of mind. So you've got to make sure that you provide value in those emails and in those social media posts and in the magazine, you know, and whatever your modes of communication are, you got to make sure that you're providing value for when they're not transacting business. So repeat and referral is no doubt our largest source. We don't do Zillow leads, or we don't buy any leads. So yeah, it's repeat and referral, which is, as you guys know, 100 times easier to work because they're already warm. You know, when somebody, you're not fighting for their business. So somebody told them to call you and they're already bought in on who you are.
Any other sources that are strong lead generation for you besides that?
Well, I mean, you know, I'll tell you another. Google is a big source of leads for us, and that's because we've really focused on our reviews. That's something that we are really putting a lot of energy behind more recently. Considering the number of clients that we've had, our number of reviews is really, really sad. But we've been working on that. Now I want to say we're up to something like 350 reviews maybe. Which for our small area is a lot. So the good news is that there's not a lot of competition on reviews. The bad news is that we haven't been focused on it from the beginning. So if I were starting out building a business now, I would say start from the very beginning, focusing on reviews. You need to get your people to write you a review. That's how folks, think about it, y'all. I mean, how do you pick out something on Amazon? Right?
Andre.
So are you in production? If not, how do you handle the referrals that come your way and how work correct with you?
Okay, so Andre asked, are you in day-to-day production now? And how do you handle all the referrals that come in that are your people?
So I have a very strong opinion about this, which is that when you bring in talent, you better not cherry pick anything. That does not fly. somebody who is talented that you want to stay in your organization, if you promise them an opportunity and then you start backtracking, that it breaks trust. That is not the way this works, in my opinion. And I think that's one of the reasons that I have great people in my organization, because they know I want them to have the opportunity and I have their back. So as far as the referrals that come in, I mean, I will tell you, that's kind of the beauty of it, to be honest, is that, I mean, the majority of them are mine and they know that. And so they're grateful for the lead. So again, it's what's the value that you're bringing, right? So a lot of this is sphere and is business that I've built over the last 20 years. And then it grows, and then it grows exponentially because the agents and the admin do such an incredible job delivering on the promise that we make. But I think what I would say to you is it's just a little bit of a mindset shift. I don't know if I'm answering your question. Am I? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, you're answering. You're saying you're not in production, that's what we do like referrals, right?
So I am in production, but in a weird way. The only production that I do anymore, this has just been in maybe the last 6 months. I backed out until all I kept was listing leads over $1 million. And then I started working with some developers. So that's the magic spot, right? That's where most people, that's where you want to get if you're in production. It's just all you're taking is the very highest end listing leads, and only the ones that you know are going to be great, right? I mean, the ones that sound like a pain in the ass, just give them to somebody else. I'm serious. I mean, that's because what could you be doing with your time? That's the thing. That's kind of where you got to get, right? But then my lead listing specialist, who is a certified killer, about 6 months ago, I gave her all that. So any one-off listing leads, any individual single family home listing leads, those are all hers. So it's only developments that are mine. So I only have 3 or 4 clients at a time, and I have a development coordinator who works with me. And so she does all the stuff. I go out and create the relationship and get the listing, and then it's serviced, in-house by our team.
Is your split the same for your team, whether the lead comes from you or comes from them?
Yes.
Cool.
It gets so complicated. One of the things that we did that I think was actually really smart, I told you all we made a bunch of mistakes. By we, I mean I. But the thing that I think that was really smart is we let our agents come in with a static sphere. And on their sphere, which has to be approved, right? So if a new agent comes in, they bring their sphere, they'll have 50 names and say, these are my sphere. And we'll look at it and we may say, well, this person's actually a past client of ours. So they're not your sphere. I mean, they are, but you're not going to get an override. You're not going to get extra money. But whatever people's sphere ends up being, I mean, it's not that many people. Seriously, 50 people, some people have 10. If one of those people buys or sells, then they get 10%. They get 10% more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like, I mean, and that makes them feel that's their sphere forever. And when they leave, if they ever leave the company, they take their sphere with them. Everybody else is an MCKRE client.
So only from when they very first started with you.
That's exactly right. Your sphere is static. It does not change. Your sphere is put in our system. It is marked sphere, and that is it. Because the whole concept is, I had lots of people say to me who are further ahead in this than I am and was say, what happens is you've got a team member out to dinner on a Friday, and Joe Smith walks up and says, oh my gosh, I'm going to call you guys on Monday because I've got a house I want to sell. And then they're like, hey, I have a lead. It's my lead because it came from me, So, it gets complicated. And so it cuts way down on it's not, I don't think it's about not wanting to pay your people. I think it's about cutting down on the friction. When you spend time arguing about those things, it's exhausting.
Get it ironed out on the front end.
Yeah, get it ironed out and make it crystal clear. I mean, there's no reason for it to be confusing or complicated.
So just to reiterate, who they walk in with as their sphere, they can walk out with those direct people. Right?
Yeah. Who they walk in with their sphere as their sphere that they walk out with. And what that means is that doesn't mean, hey, we're going to take them out of our database. What that means is if you do a deal with that person, moving forward, you don't owe us anything.
Right. What if their sphere, so their mom, they haven't bought with you or sold with you, their mom refers her friend Kathy, you haven't done business with that person, is that their sphere, or are you saying, hey, you were on the team, that goes there?
Right. That is not their sphere.
You mentioned that when you onboard, you do this list and it doesn't end up being like 50 people. It ends up being anywhere from like 10 to 15. How do you define who is qualified to be on that list?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's like when an agent comes in and sits down and brings it to you, I mean, what we do is we scrub it with our database, right? I mean, if they're all new people that are coming into our database if they're in our database because we've pulled them through the tax records, they're their sphere. They're not, I mean, we just happen to have their address. We don't have a relationship with them. But if we have a two-way relationship with them and they're in their sphere, then that takes stopping and evaluating. And sometimes I'll say to the person, okay, listen, this person actually is someone that we, have been in contact with, and they'll, sometimes they'll say, well, it's my uncle, or it's, this is somebody. And I'm like, great. They can be in your sphere. We'll make a note. Or sometimes they'll say, well, that really, they're not that important to me, or they're not somebody that I have a close relationship with, and they remain our client and not in their sphere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's just someone who's in our database, meaning we've mined their information, then give it to them. It's their sphere.
Any other questions?
I still want a copy of this magazine in person.
I know, I tried to sign up for your email so you'd mail me one, but you didn't.
Can we just have one for our brokerage? Just one copy, one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the PDF. I mean, whatever. I just want to see one version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually we do have a digital version of it.
Okay.
Do you want me to, I can send that over. So what's my homework? Org chart, a digital copy of the magazine. And I can definitely send y'all physical copies. What else?
Yeah, a physical copy would be great.
Can somebody email me the address to send it to?
Yes, we'll email you the address. Yeah. Rich.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you. It has been very enlightening for me. I don't know about you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank
I know
you.
you're a busy person and we appreciate it. So.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Great to see you. Hopefully we'll see y'all in February.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, we'll be in February. So.
Yeah.
That's great.